that flew the famous Mosquito airplanes. This was on Christmas Eve, and they fed us and they gave us a place to sleep. And I had on my heavy flying boots. And they had a party, and we had a real nice time. I remember trying to dance with an English girl with these heavy boots on. And then we had the winners of 43, 42, 43, and 43, 44 were bitter winners in Europe. I remember we took a 6.5 ride in the back of a truck back to the base. I remember seeing ice on all the trees. But when I got back, I wrote these two gals a letter. My letter got so badly censored, they thought I was still in Italy. So I wrote a story about this, and I can say they made the war momently stop for me over Europe, and it was a cute story, and it's been published in many military magazines. It's going to be republished in my Baumkuch this Christmas. When I wrote the story, it was pretty much about me. So I decided to rewrite the story and bring in the other 9 crew members. And so, which I did. I gave it to our newsletter editor at our reunion that we're having, and he's going to republish it in December.
At base, were you in a Quonset or Nissan hut?
We were Quonset huts, yeah, yeah.
How warm were those? How warm
very
were those?
Primitive, I couldn't believe how primitive it was. For a toilet, we had a 5-gallon bucket with a wooden toilet seat, and we'd use that as a toilet. And then the farmers would collect the secretion and fertilize their fields. And when you went by these fields, when we got there, the initial crews brought bikes, so and when they left, they would leave the bikes. So we'd get on our bikes, and when we went by these fields where all this secretion was put, we'd pump as fast as we could because it really stunk, But I couldn't believe that the English were so primitive, At least that seemed primitive to me as a 21-year-old kid.
Questions? You want to go this way?
So I became after I got out of the service, I became a radio ham so I could continue using my Morse code skills. And I have a key that I brought to the reunion with a battery and a light, and I can demonstrate Morse code to the people that were at the reunion.
Mm-hmm.
To contact RC Rescue on 3 occasions going across the English Channel. And like I say, I lived in Eureka, California. And in 1940, where we get a lot of fog, in 1942 they built an airport in McKinleyville just to give pilots and individuals experience in dealing with fog. One of the things that they tried in McKinleyville was they dug some trenches alongside the runway. They filled it with diesel fuel, set it on fire, and it helped lift the fog, but they were trying, different techniques to deal with fog because that's the way it was in Europe. And as I said, in a lot of cases we sweated out the landings a hell of a lot more than the missions. Like I've told you, on Christmas Eve when you have 2,000 bombers in the air and you're coming back from a mission, you may have wounded or damaged, and you're looking for a place to land your own base, all these planes trying to land. They always gave the priority to those planes that were badly damaged or those planes that had wounded on board. They got the priority. You'd circle and you'd come in by squadrons. Mm-hmm. And a squadron usually consisted of 9 airplanes. So you had sometimes we might fly with 4 squadrons, you'd have 36. And on Christmas Eve, we had maximum. We had 36 airplanes up. But normally you would have just 24.
What was it like at altitude?
Well, at altitude, it'd be 60 below zero. We had heated suits. Underneath, we had rayon gloves, you know, because if you had, you know, we were trained so that we could assemble and disassemble a 50 caliber machine gun blindfold. We were that good at it. Luckily, I never had to do that.
Did you get frostbite on your hand?
And I, radio when I had one 50 caliber, I never had to use it, thank goodness, because when I got there, my brother was also in the 8th Air Force. He was there early when they didn't have the long range fighters, you know, and where they would go on a mission and they would have, you know, hour battles with fighters. When I went there, they had the fighter escort. They had developed the wing tanks that gave them longer ranges, and they could go almost. They could go to the complete target. You know, when my brother was flying, you know, partway into France, they'd go back home, and there he would be, you know, battling fighter planes all the time. Now, when I was flying, the damage would be primarily by flak. When he was flying, it was by fighters. He went on that first shuttle mission where they went to, where part of the group went to Schweinfurt, the other part of the group went to Regensburg, and then after he was with the group that went to Regensburg, and after they bombed, they went and landed in North Africa, and then they gassed up, and you know, and then flew back to England. So he was on that first shuttle mission. Like I say, he got shot down over France and bailed out from the bomb turret and then spent a year in a German prison camp. And he's still alive. He's living in a veterans facility in Northern California, in the area where they had those tremendous fires. They called the Schwabe. They went through our formation. The P-51 shot a lot of them on the ground.
262s.
And in those years, they didn't have the titanium metal, so the vanes on the engines wouldn't hold up very long. Right. So they couldn't stay up in the air very long because of the inferior metal that they had in the vanes. Yeah. Like I say, they didn't have titanium at that time. Now, with titanium, you know, they can stay up for a long time. They can stay up maybe 15 to 20 minutes. And a lot of them got shot on the ground. You know, P-51's got them on the ground.
That's the way to do it.
When was this? Roughly like early 45?
Well, the mission I on when they hit me was on December 24th of 1944, Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
And I wrote a story called...
Which would have been the Battle of the Bulge.
Yeah, that was during the Battle of the Bulge. A Christmas note high over the skies of Germany.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
What magazine
And it's
was
going to
that?
be that story. I told you before, the first I wrote a story and it was published, and it was all about me. And I said, no, this isn't right. There were 9 other guys on the crew, so I rewrote my story and brought in these other 9 guys. And the newsletter editor for my program is going to republish it in December in our news publication. We put out a publication quarterly. It's called Poop from Group.
It's for the 401st Bomb Group.
For first
You
bomb.
can find it by Googling 401st Bomb Group.
One that's restoring the Champagne Lady.
Sure.
Oh.
That's from our bomb group.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
It's a
So I'm gonna
Devon.
go oversee that after.
Oh yeah.
Take some pictures. But this was my station.
Yeah.
I had a lot of room. And then I had this built to hold me in.
Yep.
And then on takeoff, with the waist gunners, the tail gunners would come in here on takeoff and then on landings.
Yeah.
Okay. And we had the 2 waist gunners and the tail gunner come in here. I'm just curious as to whether the early B-17s had the electrical heating suits.
They were in the
I
F
don't know.
models. They were in the F models.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, on the first mission of the 8th Air Force, I think they sent up 17 B-17s, and I'm just wondering how well equipped those were. You know, I went to a mission in France.
Have you been back to England? Have you been able to
Yes,
see your old base or where it was?
1986. I went back to England. Our bomb group had I've had a couple of reunions. I made one of them when my wife was alive. When I was over there, I didn't know anything about fish and chips, but the only meat I could get was rabbit and goat, and the only dessert you'd get would be pudding, bread pudding. And I didn't know anything about fish and chips until I went over on a reunion in 1986. Because I like fish and chips would be fish and maybe French fried potatoes.
Where were you stationed at?
Deanthorpe. That was north of London. And as I said, there was about a 20-mile strip, about 112 miles long. We had at least 40, 50 bomb groups and that many fighter groups. And on the mission, we had a lot of airplanes up in the air.
Grass fields or concrete fields?
Pardon?
Grass fields or concrete fields?
Concrete or asphalt or whatever.
So at the U.S. Air Force Museum, they've built a recreation of the control tower
Oh, really?
at Deanthorpe. Nice. Two-story building.
Really?
I've been up
That's
there,
nice.
yeah.
These B-17 could take a lot of punishment and stay aloft.
Mm-hmm.
They proved
And it
it.
could fly higher than the B-24. B-24 could fly faster.
Carry more bombs.
Yeah.
I think Churchill flew around in a B-24, as a passenger plane. It was converted as a passenger plane before. Here going through the plane.
How many missions did you fly?
I flew 28 and then the war ended. And I did lose 2 crew members. They were flying in different crews. As crews would have crew members who might get killed or wounded. They would complete a crew. They'd have one crew use spares, fly as spares. I had my navigator, my waist gunner flew as a spare, and they got killed over Gelsenkirchen, Germany at 26,500 feet. They had a direct hit. And in the nose of the airplane. And years later, I learned that there was one survivor. It was a bombardier who was wearing a chute. And I was able to contact his wife. He was now in a nursing home. And the wife told me that had the navigator been wearing a chute, he would have survived. He got blown out, and he was coming down, and at the last minute, he opened his chute and survived,
And it's true that unlike the Memphis Belle, y'all did not fly in the same aircraft every time. You flew what was available the day of the mission, correct?
Well, we flew 3 missions in one airplane, and I have a model of that airplane. It has a cute name. It's called Tagalong. In fact, I have my card. Let's see here. Yeah, this is my card, and I've got my crew in the back of it. And this is me in the lower right-hand corner. And that airplane is called Tagalong. That's one that I flew 3 missions in, and I do have a model of it at home with the markings of my bomb group. I meant to bring a bunch of cards with me. I forgot to bring them. I could have passed them out. There's my crew in the back.
Like I said, what I've heard of
event organizer for Collins Foundation, and I bring in their vintage airplanes to my area every 2 years.